So I'm gonna go. Let's do cube review first because I've got that up and I've also got this up. So a couple things going on with cube right now, at least for me. I like to do not a budget cube, but I do like to save money on my cube. I don't go out and buy the standard staples when they're $40. So when formats rotate, that's called to me it's like cube Christmas time because you go out and you buy the old cards that just rotated. Now this is Jace. I bought these last year when Jace rotated. He's $3.99. I bought mine at $2.99. He's being played a little bit, but he's going to steadily go up. When he rotated, like I said, he was $2.99. But if we go for search for something here, Cool Stuff Inc. by the way is one of my favorite sites that I buy cards from. Free plug. I don't get paid from them. It's just a site I use. Heroes Downfall, when it was standard legal, was between $9.99 and $14.99, depending how popular Black was at any given time. They can be had now for $2.99. If you like to foil your cube, you can get them for $6. Because it just rotated, it's not going to be played in Modern. This is the time to go buy your Theros block cube cards for your cube. Heroes Downfall is one that I'm aware of. The Elspeth, what is it? Elspeth Sun's Champion. Here's another one. That was a $20 card. Now it can be had for $4.99. You get played versions, foil versions. Super cheap. Go get your... If you're stocking up on your cube, rotation time's the best. If for some reason any of these cards ever get played in Modern again, they're going to shoot back up, so grab them now. So that's my cube Christmas time plug to go buy your cube singles. Now, what we're going to do is, I think we'll do this relatively quickly because I think we want to get to the sealed, but I'm going to go through what I have sort of tabbed as some cards that I would consider for my cube. My cube has an artifact theme, runs equal numbers of all 5 cards, equal numbers of all 5 color combinations, so I'm interested in kind of all cards. One thing you'll see in other cube reviews is people will say things like, this card isn't strong enough for a 360 card cube. A 360 card cube being an 8-person cube meant to be drafted with 8 only. Very tight in terms of power level and power creep and a very controlled environment. Most powerful cards. I don't subscribe to that theory. I find that your cube is your cube. It doesn't, if you have a 360 card cube, a statement like this card isn't viable in 360 card cube doesn't mean anything. It may not be viable in your 360 card cube, but it could be very much so in somebody else's who's not running dual lands, who's not running power cards, who's not running, they might not be running rares, or maybe it's a non-mythic. There's a lot of ways you can shape your cube. So what I'm going to do is kind of focus on these as cube in general, as well as my cube specifically. If there's any cards I missed that you'd like to hear about, please let me know, but I'm going to go through these one by one. I'll be somewhat quick, talking maybe at length about a couple of them, but alright. So this is Deckbox. I uploaded these two in spoiler review so that you can kind of see what we're looking at here. Bring to Light is interesting. Lets you search your library for a creature, instant, or sorcery with converted mana costs less than or equal to the number of colors spent to cast it. So it already costs 2 colors, blue and green. You can spend up to 3 more. So in a 5-color deck, you can get up to a 5-cost creature, instant, or sorcery and cast it for free. I think it's a very cool option in some of the blue-green value decks or 5-color decks. People are talking about it a little bit for constructed, but I do think it's worth considering for some cubes. The ability to tutor and play something for less than 5 is a powerful effect in cube. There's lots of good targets that are creatures, instants, or sorcerers. Brood Butcher is a little more fringe. If you have some sort of black-green token theme, he gets a token by himself, but then can sacrifice other creatures to sort of kill other creatures. I think it's worth considering if you have that theme in your cube.
Makes combat a nightmare for your opponents.
Works well in these 2 colors. Brutal Expulsion is sort of a counter bounce spell. Again, a lot of these I'm assuming you're going to kind of read, so I'm not going to spend too much. I'm going to try to cut back on time and just let you read them. You can see them on the screen. I think this is a really nice card in like a blue-red control where you can bounce a problematic permanent, a spell, or a creature in this case to the opponent's hand and deal 2 damage to a creature or planeswalker. And it exiles it so they can't get value with like Eternal Witness or Den Protector or something like that. So it's a card that I do like and it's worth considering, possibly over something like Is It Charm if you're running that, which I am, so I'll consider that. Catacomb Sifter is similar to Brood Butcher in that it goes into like a green-black attrition deck. The thing I like the most about it, I like the 2/3, I like the 1/1, but I also like the Scry one, so I think all 3 abilities really work together well.
Also, that's an uncommon,
cheaper one. Yeah. Conduit of Ruin I love in Cube. I was just thinking about this today. The ability to go get a Mere Battlesphere, a Sundering Titan, cast at the next turn. It's a tutor. It's perfect ramp target. It's a 5/5 on its own, so it's going to get in the way of a lot of stuff. Love Conduit Ruin in a deck that's going to, in a cube that's going to utilize its ability. Drana is a really interesting card in that it's very powerful in Cube. The problem I have with it is that black is not really an aggressive color in Cube traditionally, and it's double black, so putting it into something like a red deck or a white deck that might want to use the ability is going to be really hard to cast. So I have it as a potential Cube card to look at, but again, a lot of black decks are really not aggressive. They're maybe a complementary to aggressive with some removal. But it's not, you're not running out Goblin Guide into Ember Hall. It just doesn't have those super aggressive starts.
I like black-blue aggro control, where you drop one of the, two...
Like a tempo-y card?
Yeah, so, you 2 mana... I mean, this slots right into that deck if you want to support it. It's you drop... Black has a bunch of 2/2s for 1 that ping you, and then, you on turn 2, maybe you keep up, a Mana Leak or something, and then 3 drop her, and then you just have that Mana Leak for the rest of the game, and, Anyways, I think it's cool.
Okay, yeah. From Beyond, if you're running Awakening Zone, consider running this instead of it, especially if you have Eldrazi in your cube. I think I have Awakening Zone in sort of my evaluation. I have a sort of separate pool of cards that I have as maybe cube cards, and that's where I have Awakening Zone right now. Brian loves Awakening Zone.
I do.
So this is a potential replacement. Gideon, not much to say. I think it's really good. Consider replacing either some old Gideons with it. 1 mana cheat. It's very good cube card. Very good card in general. Green Warden of Marasa. I think is a great cube card. Eternal Witness gets played in a lot of green decks. This is double Eternal Witness and provides a beefy body. You can Chord for it. Green Sun Zenith for it. I feel like there's other tutor effects in green in my cube, but it's fantastic. So.
Natural Order, get back Natural Order.
Natural Order, get back Natural Order. There you go. Kiora is another Planeswalker. I don't know. Maybe blue-green in my cube isn't necessarily doing these things. Tapping and untapping and revealing 4 cards and drawing a creature or a land, or both of them. You can get both of them. The ultimate is amazing, and if it ever fires in your cube, it's probably worth it alone. Putting 3 8/8 octopi into play and then making them fight creatures. But again, it's a Planeswalker. It's in a generally strongly supported color, so you should consider it. Lumbering Falls, and I have the other man land on here. I'm a big believer in cycles for lands, so when these rotate, I will be picking them up because I have the first 5 from this cycle in my cube, assuming they print the next 3 in the next set, which I can only assume they will, but who knows.
Though this cycle seems a lot less powerful.
So far. This does avoid land destruction, if that's ever a thing, which it's really not in my cube, because beyond Armageddon, I don't have a lot of the Molten Rain type effects.
I'd rather be unblockable.
Yeah. Ob Nixilis, another black Planeswalker to consider. I don't have Liliana the Veil because it's $100. So this is something else I can consider over Liliana Vess.
I think
draw cards, destroy a creature.
Huge
the emblem's
upgrade over
great.
Vess.
So definitely a card I'll consider if it drops in value or post rotation. Planar Outburst, if you're looking for 5 mana Wraths, you can do a lot worse. I think most people run 4 mana Wraths. That's probably the standard. But again, another alternative Wrath to consider. The new, so here's the other man land. I'm not going to talk about that one. Prairie Stream is part of the new cycle of the 5 lands that have the basic types and are allied colors. Perfectly good for if you don't have dual lands or shock lands, or you have shocks but not duals. Grab these, run them. Quarantine Field I like because on 4 it kind of works like a Faith's Fetter's Oblivion Ring and gets better from there. Good in a blue-white control deck. Potentially good in a white aggro deck to move something out of the way, but it's a card I like. I think I can strongly consider it again.
Yeah.
Getting 3 permanents with it is insane. So, Radiant Flames, kind of the same function as a Pyroclasm or an Anger of the Gods, but obviously with a Converge, making you spend multiple colors of mana. It's a card I'm considering, but I'm not sure, because generally red decks, unless you're a white, red, blue, or something like that, aren't playing 3 colors. They're oftentimes 2. So at that point, Pyroclasm is just strictly better, or Anger might just be strictly better. So something to keep an eye on, but I don't know if it's as powerful as
I think it depends on if you want, for some reason, not to have the mono red deck and still, if you want to make red a support color.
Ruinous Path, it would be a second option to Hero's Downfall. Hero's Downfall is so cheap, so I'm going to get one of those now. If I didn't have that option or I opened one of these, this is a perfectly fine substitute at sorcery speed. Not going to talk about the mainland. I do run Journey to Nowhere in my cube, and this is a potential just strict upgrade to it. It's not a strict upgrade. That's a lie. It costs 1 more mana, but the flash is really good. So you can hold your mana open for a counter spell. They play a creature, and then you stasis snare end of turn. So that's a good cube consideration at uncommon. Ulamog is good.
I think he fires the previous version of himself.
Basically, unless you really want the Annihilator, this is probably just a better version of Ulamog.
In limited, it certainly
is. I mean, 2 attacks and they're dead.
Yeah.
Exiling 2 permanents when it comes into play. Yeah, it's good. And then this guy I like too, Woodland Wanderer. The fact that it starts as a 2/2 Vigilance Trample, if you can spend all 3 colors of mana, it becomes a 5/5, or I'm sorry, 6/6, because you get green by default, so it automatically is a 3/3. By default, if you spend a second color, you get 4/4, and if you're more colors, it gets bigger. It's a big threat on its own. The Vigilance, I think, is important. The Trample is important. So it's another card to consider if you're going to support a multicolor green cube. So that's what I had selected out. It doesn't seem like it's a lot, but actually, I mean, there's 5 here, and so I think there's some good choices for cube in here, and I'll be keeping an eye on it. So, Brian, any other comments? Anything I missed?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So Brian and I both did pre-releases this past weekend. I went to a midnight